Hello? Yeah, I'll tell him. Hey sinners, it's your fucking prophet speaking. God says that we actually came from her vagina, not Adam's rib. God wants us to address her as that bitch now in all prayers and legal documents. Did you know that John has a twink on the side? Olivia doesn't even know. Oh my god, I heard that they're swingers. She practically propositioned me in the church parking lot. Having gained an angel, more like hell gained a bitch. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pouty Mouth podcast. I am your prophet and host, Tara. I'm so excited today because I have a guest, Celeste, and I'm just very, very excited to dive into the topic of secret lives of Mormon wives. Celeste and I connected over the internet, and I am so excited to get her views as a never Mormon who is also a very, very big fan of the show. And I will dive into everything that Whitney has shared with me from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. If you're not familiar, we were mission companions and still very close friends now. Well, maybe not everything that she shared with me, but welcome, Celeste. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, so were you an instant fan of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
It was like it chose me. Honestly, it was I like reality TV, but nothing has gripped me quite like this one. I remember seeing an ad for it on Instagram and just thinking that sounds like fun. September 2023, and it has just somewhat taken over my life, but I am also able to maintain a regular life alongside it. But I don't think I'm your typical fan as a British atheist who I've never met you're the first Mormon I've ever met, Tara. So congratulations.
Oh my gosh. And I'm not even full. Should I go back to Mormonism for you so that you can get a real experience of
Yeah, if you could just rejoin the church for me, I'd really appreciate it.
so that you can meet a full one. That's actually so surprising. So you grew up in London then, right?
Yeah, in the UK, and my mum's side of the family is a bit Catholic, but I went to an Anglican primary school, but so did every other kid in my neighborhood, and I've never really been religious, and I hadn't heard of the LDS Church until my 20s, and it's such a rich seam to mine from in terms of it's just a really fascinating religion if one thinks of it as a religion. Some people might call it a cult. I think it's somewhere in between, maybe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I am actually very fascinated. I know in, the UK in general, a lot of people are not super religious just in general, right? And
Yeah.
especially Mormonism is just dying so hard there.
So, yeah, and actually it was interesting to find that Mormonism had its origins in the north of England originally before I think, you can cut this if I'm wrong. I think it
No.
had some origins in the north of England and then they went over to the States or something like that. But of course it's the all-American religion, right? But there must be some Mormon churches in the UK, but I've not seen any. I mean, if anyone's knocking on your door, you're assuming they're a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay. Yeah, so it originated in America, but a lot of the converts were in the UK.
Yeah, and they've recruited them. Yeah.
Yes, they would recruit them, literally trafficking. They'd get women and children and be like, no, we don't believe in polygamy. We don't believe in polygamy. And then they'd come to Utah and be
They're
trapped
got
there.
we've got all this land for you. It's super fertile and it's really easy to get there. They go to the States. They're so yeah, you're going to be walking to Utah?
Yeah.
It's not that far. Don't worry about it. With a handcart.
With a handcart. And you're going to be the third wife of this random man. So
and your sister as well. And maybe your daughter too.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into it. I feel like we should start. I know that we definitely need to get into season 3. Of all of it, but I'm curious to know, from your view, what was it that was so interesting in the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that had you so hooked? What is it that I guess fascinates you so much about Mormonism in general?
I think because it is such a unique interpretation of Christianity that is it's very rules based. There's a lot of point scoring. There's a lot of one-upmanship. And there's a lot of perfectionism. And especially with I mean, almost every influencer out there is secretly Mormon, and there's a reason for that. And so I started watching the show, and episode 1 it's structured around Taylor Frankie Paul's swinging scandal, and that blew up I'd never heard of this woman before. I don't have TikTok. I was just like, okay, this sounds like fun. So yeah, I guess the show interested me initially because I love reality TV, but I definitely love it more when it's about regular people, because the Real Housewives of whoever, Salt Lake City is my favorite, but they're all kind of famous already. They're all rich already.
Yeah.
And you kind of get bored of rich people drama after a bit. So a reality show that centered around normal people who all happen to be associated with this completely insane religion was already appealing to me because I find religion really fascinating. And so you watch episode 1 and it's quite like, I thought that the editing was really like, it was just so badly it was so bad it was good. I was really drawn to it in that way. It focused on this swinging scandal that didn't really seem to have much weight around it, and everyone was really invested in everyone else's private lives. And I was just like, all of these women have gone to the same plastic surgeon for a start. Really impossible to tell, apart from a couple of them who, I mean, Whitney, for instance, really has a different look from all of the others, which is great, and Layla, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And then what I found really fascinating about the first season is that there's a year between episode 1 and then the rest of the season. And it's because of Taylor's domestic violence charge and the whole legal uproar around all of that. And what I think happened is the show was probably commissioned on this whole like swinging, sexy Mormon mommy bloggers. And the angle like shifted gear really fast into this sort of Taylor recovering from this really, really controversial incident in her life and then getting pregnant by someone who is an asshole. Sorry, Dakota, but you.
Yeah.
And I think the sort of gear shift between episode 1 and everything else I found really interesting, as well as the fact that I don't think anyone expected the show to blow up like it has, especially the people on the show. So there was a certain amount of like honesty, and they were very genuine and very true to themselves. And they also were very candid about the impact that the LDS church had in their lives, and they were quite unapologetic about that, which led to a lot of people saying like, oh, these women aren't LDS, one of them's drinking coffee and they're not wearing their garments, and this one had sex before marriage. It's like, yeah, but that's the point scoring element of the religion. Whereas if you read between the lines, you can see the really intense like cultural impact that the religion has had on the way that they think and the way that they act. I found that really interesting. And it's kind of a shame that in seasons 2 and 3, they've sort of moved away from talking about the religion, which is what drew me to it. So I'm sort of hoping that they don't entirely lose sight of it. So yeah, the fascinating element to me was the weaving the religion into their lives in a way that was not stereotypical or janky at all. It was very genuine and such a integral part of their lives. And of course, in season 2 and season 3, they've sort of moved away from that and more into just the famous for being famous aspect. And it's sort of I'm just worried it's lost its way a little bit. And I hope that they do focus more on the religious aspect, because that's why we're tuning in. And I think, I'm sure everyone listening to this show knows Alyssa Grenfell and her videos of deconstructing Mormonism and leaving the church. And she's done a really interesting video about how and why so many influencers are from LDS backgrounds, even if they're not LDS anymore. And so they're kind of doing the same thing of the more famous they get, the more they turn down the religion. But the problem is the show is called The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and they can't change the name of the show. So at some point, if the whole Mormonism aspect is gone, then I don't really know why people are tuning in to see these people some of them are getting more famous now because of their involvement in other reality shows. But they're not A-list, and that's fine. They're also regular people who live in regular neighborhoods and have regular husbands, etc. So
I thought from the moment the show, the first season, I thought that this is Hulu's like Bravo moment to have like different franchises of the Real Housewives, now turning it into like the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, like in all different areas of the United States and honestly the world they could do. But I also completely agree with you. Like, I don't know if it's the aspect of like getting out of that bubble that causes people as they, become bigger influencers or become more famous, that their religious, I don't know, like religiosity and all of that towards Mormonism kind of starts to die down, and a lot of them eventually just not being Mormon at all. But
Yeah.
there's also like a theory somebody said that like each opening of the show is to show like the different stages of their progression through Mormonism and some people out of Mormonism. I don't know if that's true, but I also agree with you that like they haven't really been talking about Mormonism, at least in this third season.
No, and like there was a baby blessing right at the end, but it wasn't. I found the baby blessing that they showed in season 1, I think, Jen's
Mhm.
second kid. That was really interesting. I had no idea that was a thing at all. To see that televised
Yeah.
as a nerd about culture and religion, that was really interesting to me. And Taylor did it as well, but I think that was mostly to appease the family, probably because she's not an active member of the church.
Yeah.
And season 1, Jen forgets her garments. That's like a whole thing. And they talk about the breastfeeding garments. And there's a lot of talk about like character and all those sort of buzzwords that mean a lot more if you're informed about the religion, and especially like the dynamics between the husbands and the wives. And as the wives have become more famous and their husbands are just reduced to these like unemployed losers. Sorry guys, it's I don't know, they've become more powerful, and that's really great, but it's kind of come at the cost of the show's selling point, I think.
Yeah. What did you think of like the first seasons of them constantly talking about how like we're breaking down the patriarchy, we're doing all this stuff? Like, did it come off? I mean, to me, now looking back at the first season, it just like it always kind of came off as like a very immature view of like what feminism was. And
Yeah, they typed "what is feminism" into ChatGPT, and that's what they know. And I guess that they're trying, and they probably think they're being super feminist by having jobs. But these are also women who've been indoctrinated into thinking that they have to be wives and baby factories forever. They get married before their brains are fully developed, and they're then trapped in marriages, and traditionally without really having an outlet of a career. So they're essentially trapped in these marriages forever. And depending on how strong their belief is, they know that they can't leave their partners because they're tied together in eternity, and they get their own planet. Something about they're getting their own planet at the end with their first husband, but only the first husband. And so
yes, yeah, women can't marry multiple
yeah,
men. Only men can marry multiple.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the whole saying, "Oh, we're breaking down the patriarchy," and they're doing this by doing TikTok dances. I don't really. Okay, they're making a lot of money out of doing nothing, which slay. We all dream
Yeah.
of doing. That doesn't make you a feminist. Being a feminist is about having the right to choose how you want to live your life. And they do not have choices, and they also do not allow other people to have choices. They're
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how far out of the church they are, they have that cultural, they're hardwired that way culturally, and letting go of that is really difficult. And I don't think
Yeah.
they achieved, the ones who've left haven't really achieved that in ways I've seen in other people who've left the church really intentionally.
I completely agree with you, and I think like this season 3 really showed that, specifically in Jesse's marriage, who
Yes.
is the
Yeah.
most outspokenly ex-Mormon. Like,
Mhm.
there's nothing really about her dynamics and how she acts that shows that she has deconstructed some of those ideas. And especially with like the level of, I don't know, like you said, like how they hold Whitney to like this standard and level, like is very, very Mormon, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Oh my God, the whole like, I'd rate myself a 9 out of 10 on the Mormon scale. I was like, I'm sorry, is this a school playground? Like, that is not how we measure each other's virtue as adults. Like, come on. I
Yeah.
mean, you can never make me hate Whitney. I think she's great. I think that they just dislike her as a
Yeah.
person. And this I mean, you're probably going to get onto this later, but acting like MomTok is anything other than a brand is ridiculous. And they just turn it into like, oh, we're a sisterhood and we love each other. And for that reason, Whitney, you're not allowed to hang out with us. It's like, she is an asset to your brand. And that's
Yes.
what you're here
Yeah.
to do. You're here to make money, and all you care about is making money. Like, and the whole, oh, she's only here so she can get on Dancing with the Stars. Like, yeah. And she
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
but
all
you've
of them, They all have things in their contracts, right? Like Macy got her book deal because of her contract, and
Yeah,
Taylor's going to be
exactly.
on The Bachelorette because of her contract. They film at Jay-Z Styles because of her contract. Like,
The product placement is getting worse with every season. They like
yes.
arrive at their accommodation. They're like, wow, look at these Amazon Prime packages. I only ordered them yesterday. It's like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, we get you have a deal with
Let me
Amazon
crack
probably.
open a poppy. I can't stand. I mean, I also grew up in a country where product placement is literally illegal. So it's like, yeah, it's not a thing in the UK at all.
Oh, wow.
But they're not very subtle about it. Like they could be more subtle, but that's not really. You don't go to Mormonism to be subtle.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And I think like even going back to the first season, I can completely agree that like none of them really knew where this was going to go, you know? And I think like I don't know, I'm like trying to think back to remember like why everyone was so pissed at Whitney and why she like came out as this like ultimate villain. I think maybe it's just like her personality is very like
Really different.
polarizing.
Yeah, I think I think there's also kind of struggling to see eye to eye with some of the other women in a way that really rubs them up the wrong way. There was the Fruity Pebbles incident, which I thought was like really childish, but also get overable as far as I'm concerned. And also because everyone loved Demi in season 1 because she was perceived to be a girl's girl and a feminist and on the good side. And she was the one yelling at Whitney. So it's the enemy of the enemy is my friend sort of thing. And so when you watch back, having watched Demi's incredibly dramatic fall from grace and overestimation of how much people like her, you go back and watch season 1, and you're like, I can't actually figure out what Whitney's done wrong. I mean, the RSV video hangs over her like a sword of Damocles, which is kind of dumb because, like, who among us has not done dumb shit and posted it on the internet? Like,
Yeah.
thank all deleted our MySpaces when we did. And yeah, also, who cares? Like, the job is to post videos and make money.
Yeah.
Like, I think any discussion that drifts away from that, you need to like shut it down. Be like, we all know why we're here.
Yeah. And I totally get like people's upsetness over that RSV video. I think just in general, posting your kids like or your husband or your relationship can open you up to critique of that, right? In general. So I get people like, I don't know, the internet with kids is just really, really hard.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you're kind of already going into it as like people being like, oh yeah, like we hate this girl already. But it's interesting from the behind the scenes stuff, at least like with season 1, Whitney and I literally talked every single day, like after she was filming, because she was like so depressed and crying
I bet.
every single time.
Awful.
Yeah. And like, it's funny looking back because I think people are like, oh, like she had no idea how she was coming off, but she did know that, right? Because they had filmed the pilot episode a year before, but it's like when they started filming everything consecutively for the rest of the season is when quickly I feel like it was like right away that she was like, they're all turning against me and talking bad about me and making me look like the odd man out of this group so that they don't have to be the villain.
Yeah, I think she is the odd one out in this sense.
Yeah.
Her entire sort of vibe is very different, and I'm just trying to think back because I did recently binge seasons 1 and 2 in preparation for season 3. Yeah, I've also recently broken up with my partner, so I suddenly have like loads of free time and I didn't know what to do with myself. So I just rewatched my favorite show that he really hated.
He hated it.
It's cool. We're still friends. It's all good. Yeah, I think also I thought that what was really interesting is she's the one that brought up the RSV video. And that was quite surprising because it's quite bold to do that. It came up originally with her thinking that she didn't get the grace that Taylor did, which is kind of true, actually, because I gotta say, I don't know if this is going to get me cancelled or not, but I'm incredibly suspicious of these DV charges against Taylor. I know that it's because a chair was thrown and it hit her kid, but I think believing everything Dakota said and then arresting her, there's a lot we don't know. about what happened that night.
Yeah.
And Dakota is an ex-addict. He's probably, you can cut this bit if it's not allowed. You can see from his eye, he's got bright red eyes all the time. He twitches. He's weird. He has really weird mannerisms. Like, he is
Yeah.
not clean, I don't think. And he's got like a really weird dark past. He's also huge. He's like a big guy. Taylor's tiny. You could probably like pick her up with one hand. And to say that I understand that the DV charge is because of the daughter, but like, they go and talk to Dakota. He's like, oh, I was scared for my life. And you look at this pint-sized, like 5 foot tall, like pound soaking wet woman. And it's like, she's obviously the problem. And also the amount of growth that she did is like 10 seasons worth of growth in like 7 episodes. It was really remarkable. Like, she's very mature, as well as being really messy, which is what makes her such a captivating character in all of this. She was born to
And you want to know, Whitney's going to hate that I say this, but I've already told her this, that I feel like her and Taylor are very similar. Not in the sense of like the things that they have necessarily gone through, but I feel like their personalities, right?
They don't really have an agenda.
Yeah, and they're both very spontaneous, right? Like, Taylor will just like out somebody instantly about like something that happened, you know, without really thinking about it. And that's similar how Whitney was like kind of running away from the fights and the drama and the chaoticness of it. I think it like both is like kind of their survival mechanisms showing. And so I don't
They're
know.
both radically honest as well, I think.
Yes, radically honest. Yes, very, very. What you see is exactly what you get, and you don't have to like question or wonder if they're not being honest with you. So yeah, I think they're very similar in that vibe. And I think like because of those similarities, but them also like presenting so differently, right? Like, especially in season 1, I feel like Whitney was like presented as like this preppy, I don't know, like just like homesteading Mormon girl, and Taylor was presented as like this rough around the edges, like not doing what she's supposed to be doing, like Mormon girl failure, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well, like, I don't know if Whitney is still an active member of the church, right? She's definitely more involved with the church than Taylor was. And so there's a certain amount of needing to uphold that from Whitney. But yeah, I definitely agree that the similarities are there. They're also both, they have that star factor about them. And Whitney's continual showing up on the show despite knowing that everyone hates her no matter what she does. She understands the assignment. She understands she's there to entertain. She's showing up to get her paycheck. She's showing up to get her place on Dancing with the Stars. And she's also honest about it. She's not there pretending that she's there for anything other than forwarding her career, which is the whole point. And anyone who's just there going, oh, I'm here for the sisterhood. And it's like, who paid for your giant house?
Yeah.
It wasn't your husband. He doesn't have a job.
What did you feel about like the first half of season 3 without Whitney there? Because I feel like people were like, oh, it's so boring. I thought we were going to get more out of the Jesse and Marciano situation. I don't know why that fell so flat when it was like, I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's just because also I don't feel like a kiss is like they're separated. It's a kiss. Like, I felt like Jordan was like milking that for all he could.
It's so funny because every season it's just like, oh, we're ready to see Zach being an asshole again, and then a new husband is like, hold my swig. It's like they're competitively trying to be awful. I was going to say hold my beer, but they've never had a beer, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So first of all, the thing that, again, the appeal of season 1 was the unknown of it all. And the problem is the drama doesn't play out on the show. The drama plays out on the internet. And then 6 months later, you get to see a really polished edit of everything you've already seen with a few extra things. I actually was okay, first of all, I'm going to admit, I had a watch party here on Saturday with all of my friends. So the first half felt incredibly exciting because I was here with all of my friends and we were screaming at the TV, which was great. And I was actually really surprised to hear that the allegations of cheating were true, because I thought I thought the reveal was that it wasn't going to be, it was just all made up, because that's kind of how the show has gone so far, let's be honest.
Yeah.
The polygraph test, inadmissible in court. Whatever statistic that polygraph operator gave about the truthfulness of it is complete bullshit. It tests your heart rate and your sweatiness. As a person with a high heart rate who sweats a lot, I would fail every polygraph test, even if I was telling the truth. So I think the way they went about like trying to get to the bottom of things was kind of just there for just.
Yeah. And also like the amount of time they spent on that versus like not getting into the details of like Jordan and her's relationship, like that, like I was floored to hear that he had been, you know, emotionally and verbally abusing her their whole marriage.
I
And
was also not surprised. I was like, yeah, okay, you're both ex Mormon. This guy is what, like 5'6"? He's got something to prove. He lives in.
his big truck, his big
You've
old
seen.
truck.
Have you seen the house is on the market, $2.5 million?
Yeah, I
Have you
saw that.
seen?
Yeah.
And so like his wife pays for everything. She
Yeah.
is the reason they have that house. She's the brains behind the business. He has no job. He probably
I
barely
thought he
looks.
did sales or something.
Yeah, but he doesn't like he's not the one bringing in the big bucks. Like
Yeah.
they're all like riding on the coattails of their wives, and I think he is doing it with the least grace out of all of them because he's still treating his wife like shit. And it kind of goes to show that like it doesn't matter how strong a woman's personality is. She can be very strong in public, but in the background there can be some like tiny insecure man being horrible to her, even though she is the reason that their life is so good. And so, yeah, it was really horrible to find out that was the status of their marriage, but also not surprising at all. And
Yeah.
the husbands, except Jacob and Connor, are like competitively trying to be the absolute worst. I think just another thing that I think the difference between season 1 and then subsequent seasons is you didn't really get any time with the husbands in season 1, and that's the way it should be. I don't care about these men at all.
Yeah,
like I'm not
neither do I.
interested. I don't want to hear their opinions. I don't want to know what they're up to. I don't want to see them fly fishing together. Like this isn't about them. And it's actually so Mormon to just take these women's success and then build a DadTok brand around the men. It's like, this isn't about you. Like, go get a real.
I am so sick of DadTok. If I hear that again, I jail immediately. No such thing as DadTok. And Jordan always wearing the DadTok hats and stuff and selling merch.
DadTok happen. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Yes. And I feel like his reaction, like, I'm trying to give grace because, like, yeah, I've never been cheated on and I would never condone cheating, right? But, like, her reaction to it, I felt like was over the top remorse of, like, I'm the worst person ever. I don't deserve anything. Like, that was a little extreme to me. That immediately had my red flags up before she even talked about the emotional abuse because I was like, you guys were separated and you kiss someone. Like, if he can't get over that.
You should feel terrible. Like, she's there saying all because, you know, sometimes you're just like, oh my God, I'm the worst person in the whole world. And your friends are like, oh my God, babe, no, you're not. Where she's going, oh, I'm really awful and terrible. And he's like, yeah, and you deserve to feel like shit. Actually, you should feel worse. Cry more. It's like, what the hell?
And I don't condone her actions of having dinner with Marciano. I thought that was so dumb. And I don't like
6 other women.
Yeah.
They weren't having a romantic meal.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
Oh
yeah.
My God.
But I just think like in that situation, like I guess if the trust was broken, then I would like just be like, hey, we're waiting for the test results. We're going to grab something to eat, you know, just being communicative because also she acted like she was not going to cut the relationship off between her and Marciano, right? Like she was like, Jordan wants me to like never talk to him again, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. It's like, I don't know if I can promise that. It's like, what? First of all, this guy is an ugly fucking douchebag for one.
They both
suck.
Suck.
Yeah, I'm just like, why? Why both of them? And I hated the part where he's like, so you're going to tell your kids that like your mom cheated on their dad. It's like, listen to how you're talking to your wife. Like, I hate the sexist, like, bullshit of holding her to this. It's like he was calling her a whore and, like, basically being like, you're going to tell your kids you're a whore without saying the word whore, I guess. But trying to slut shame her, basically.
The kids are all going to grow up and watch this show and be like, damn, you guys are crazy at all of them, frankly. But, like, yeah, it's obviously... It's pushing her buttons, it's knowing where she feels vulnerable, and it's guilt tripping her by using her kids as a punchline, and it's awful.
Yeah.
Like
And
completely
Jessie is the one we know that has the most plastic. I mean, her, maybe Demi, but at least is the most vocal about her plastic surgery and like
good
showing.
for her.
Yeah,
It's fine. Like whatever. Makes you happy, do it.
yeah.
And I
But I'm
actually thought
thinking,
no, no,
oh,
you
I'm
go ahead.
sorry.
No, no,
I
you
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say I'm thinking though that like now looking back, it feels so sinister because I feel like she's doing that because of being put in a situation to just feel like shit about herself from her husband and not feeling good enough, not feeling pretty enough, you know?
It's so ironic, and then you look at the husband and you're like, "Him?
Yes.
Really?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I think she's a babe. Like
Yeah,
I'm
and she
like, why does she not dress a little sluttier? Like show off your body, Jessie. Like you look
you paid
good.
you paid good money for that body, now show it off.
Yeah. Like I'm like, we need more outfits with like the boobs out. Like, come on. Like you look great. You have a fantastic body and a great face. Like, and I don't know. I felt like Jordan when I heard Jesse on Nick Files, is that his name? Viles
I can't
podcast.
stand I can't that's the one podcast I just can't make it through.
When I heard her say the comment that Jordan had said that, like, oh, if I were married to Whitney, I would cheat too, I said, that man is a sexist, misogynistic asshole. Because how they talk about someone who they're not sexually attracted to, you know, women that they're not sexually attracted to, is how they really feel about women, you know? And
Human
it's
sexual attractiveness is her only currency.
yes. And it's like, so now you are getting a taste of what it feels like. Nobody deserves to be cheated on. Like point blank period. No matter how awful somebody is, how great they are, like nobody deserves that. And now it's like, I don't know, a little bit of karma of like, see, now you see how that feels. And nobody deserves that. Even if he is emotionally abusive, which I think he's admitted to, like still
He
doesn't
showed
deserve it.
He showed us he was emotionally abusive. And I mean, I'm not here to speculate or spread rumors, but it's not that difficult online to find the origins of Jesse and Jordan's start of their relationship. So I
Yeah,
think
I
he
saw that.
shouldn't be going around pointing fingers about this kind of thing because he is a part of a cheating story and he has been already. And he needs to shut his little bitch mouth. Come at me,
Yeah.
Jordan. I will fight
Yeah.
you. I'm bigger than you. I
And
am
I will
sure.
post the links to some of those stories because they, especially since this season, they have really come out and they even came out with like the court cases ruling with their oldest child too
Yeah,
and
and
all of
it's
that.
and also I think as well, like there's shades of cheating. I know all cheating is bad, but a couple of kisses and like falling for someone who, when you're already in a relationship, like it happens. You are not in the past, men had entire separate families that they kept in a separate apartment because back then the economy was better and you could afford to do that. And so they're just acting like she has murdered the children in front of him. And it's like,
Yeah.
come on, she just like made out with a guy that she had a crush on because as much as I hate to admit this, Marciano is more attractive than Jordan, but also like the bar is in hell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's not hard.
It's below hell in this case.
Absolutely.
But I agree. That's what I mean is like, yeah, there is levels to cheating. And if she would have slept with him, yeah, that would have been like a big deal. But like a kiss while you're separated, I mean, I don't know the rule. It sounds like the rules of their separation was not to do that. But like, I don't
Were they
know.
separated at the time they were in the villa? I can't remember the timeline, to be honest, but like,
Yeah. And I also wonder if I wonder if they really were separated because of how Jordan was so upset about his being emasculated and being emasculated. And I don't
you did that
know.
to yourself, Jordan. You
Yeah.
emasculated yourself.
And there's no word for women who are being em- the equivalent to emasculated, right? With him like making her be this housewife and making her, you know, not helping around the house and then also verbally abusing her and emotionally abusing her. Like, what do you think you're doing to her? Like, how do you think she feels? How is this like not clocking to you? Of
And
like,
it's just evidence that like it doesn't matter how far out the church you are hardwired that way unless you are fully committed to deconstructing everything you think you know about yourself. Like you have
yeah,
to let go of the ego, you have to fully accept that you are going to change as a person. And it doesn't really sound like, you can there's leaving the church and then there's leaving the church. And I don't think they've really put any effort into being not into being non-Mormons and not carrying that kind of albatross of misogyny around their necks. And same for
Yeah.
Jessie. It's also like, but I also don't blame her for that, because she's the victim in this situation, because she's automatically a victim because she's a woman in a patriarchal religion. She's trapped,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
And it's like, it still shows up though, like even in this group of like, I don't know, I guess the phrase would be like a pick me, right?
Mhm.
Like, seems like I genuinely think from like season 1 to season 3 with like Whitney and everyone's like hatred for her, like that there has been a lot of growth, and you could see that, and you can see her like, I don't know, not talking bad about people, and like, you know, like learning from that mistake genuinely, and like genuinely having conversations, especially like at the end of season 3. Like I felt like that was so, I felt like her apology was the most real out of everyone's apology, you know?
Yeah.
And whereas everyone else, it's like they never really got past things. It's like Jen now being upset with Whitney and being like, well, you'll see in season 3, and like trying to make the Dancing with the Star, like her kind of lose Dancing with the Stars, when it's like nobody's learned how to like move past these emotions and like
And she's also
work
3
things
months
out.
postpartum. How well can she realistically dance without like being in a lot of pain? It's crazy. Yeah, I think what was also interesting about Whitney is you saw she had the ability to change her mind when given new information, which
Yeah.
is a sign of maturity, because a lot of them are very focused on, it's very black and white to them. Well, because they've grown up in a religion which is very black and white, which is
Yeah.
very rules focused, where there's a really big focus on right and wrong and good and bad. And learning to go past that is a sign of maturity, especially in a religion which discourages it so much. So of course here's what Demi is saying about the incident with Marciano, and is like, I believe you, I trust you, and then speak to some of the other girls, and is like, oh, okay, well, you know, maybe I feel slightly differently about it based on what I've heard, but I'm also not going to cast judgment on anyone, and I'm also going to try not to get too involved. And yeah, it's all bananas, frankly.
What did you feel about the whole Demi situation? Because I feel like we didn't get into. I'm still confused about what she's claiming is sexual assault. I know that she talked about like the butt grabbing and different stuff, but like, is there more to it? I didn't know if she was claiming that like the kiss, like that he gave her, if that was like unwanted advancements, you know?
Well, we all know from the infamous Halloween episode that Demi will take, like Miranda said, something this big, turn it into something this big.
Mm-hmm.
And one really interesting comment I saw on the Reddit forums was about how it doesn't really matter whether her allegations are true or not. She's using them to hide her awful behavior, which has been present since the second. She's been awful for 2 seasons now, and she will just not back down, and she will not reflect, and she will not apologize. And she needed a redemption arc, and she found one in this. Whether it's true or not, I don't really want to go around speculating on that, because
Yeah.
I am a feminist and I want to believe women, but at the same time, the way she went about it was awful. The fact that she kind of turns to Macy and is like, well, you know, you've been a victim of sexual assault, so like, you get it. And Macy's there like, don't drag me into this shit. And almost trying to score points by turning to the people who have been victims and saying, well, you know, they believed you, so you should believe me as well by default. And I think as well, like, this cast has quite a good track record of handling this topic sensitively. There was Connor's story in the reunion, there was Michaela's story, and then Macy's. Everyone has been very conscientious about how they've responded to these, and this one felt very different. And even those who have been victims, which is Macy, Michaela, and Connor, have just said, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't sit right with me. And I think for people who have been victims of sexual assault to immediately be suspicious is very telling. But I also think the producers are to blame here, because they've decided to make a storyline out of something that is
very serious.
It's very serious, but it's also feels like a gray area, because no one can really agree on what it is and everyone is confused.
Yeah.
And I don't
And
know
then
if
go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, and then the victim blaming narrative. The only part that I felt like was that I could agree with Demi on the victim blaming was the internet stuff, right? Was as soon as she said that like he's a sexual predator, instead of commenting back and like calling her a liar and doing all of that, like, don't talk about it on the internet. Like, Don't.
And she kept saying, like, oh, I never wanted this to come out. I actually wanted to keep it quiet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an entire storyline about it on my reality TV show and then put it in the court of public opinion. So it can be a controversial talking point. So people will talk about it. So I'll become more famous. It doesn't, I mean, I don't know how, there is no perfect victim. There is no one way that victims should behave. And also there's Brett's reaction. We all know Brett is a roided up, creepy asshole with a giant chin and no job. And we saw how he reacted to the whole Chase laid his hands on me thing. He was about to like rip Chase to shreds on the lawn. And it's a miracle no one was hurt. And that is him just hearing his wife say one sentence. If she had come back from Vanderpump Villa and explained what had happened, he would probably have tried to exact his revenge, which, you know, fair enough. I understand why he'd want to defend his wife like that. But the whole thing with bringing her daughter into it and FaceTiming with the daughter and being like, oh, if you're really sorry for him, let's end DoorDash. It's like, that doesn't really sit with Brett's past behavior. Yeah. And their entire marriage dynamic seems to be her whinging and him going, babe, you're so right. I mean, you saw that. I found the fact that she was like in glam having her makeup done with her husband on the phone, just legitimizing everything she was saying. And she's like she's trying to cry, but she has so much Botox that she can't. And there's like you don't like try and put yourself in a situation when you're crying when you're having your makeup done. I thought that was very odd.
I think like even the one thing I will say about Chase, like touching her on the hip, I absolutely thought that was an intimidation move, whether he did it subconsciously or whether I like that part. I could agree with Demi on knowing exactly what the fuck he's doing, because having dealt with Mormon men that do these little fucking things, I had it happen to me on my Mormon mission where a guy would kept doing that, would just like touch my hand real quick. And so I don't know, like that part of it, and I know Chase has like apologized for it, but like I could agree with her of being like, yeah, it wasn't a shove, but it was absolutely to intimidate you and absolutely to get, I don't know, kind of like a rage baity thing. And I agree, like, you don't touch me, you know?
Yeah.
The other part of it that I feel like Demi, yeah, that she's not sharing is I wonder if she has a past history of being abused, because just the fact that she's married to Brett, who is so much older than her, and
I think her first husband was also a little older as well.
yes, yeah,
Not
I
as
don't think
not as much, but
yeah, but still, like it's significantly older, right?
And she parades him around like a trophy. They're each other's trophies, which I find very
exactly
dynamic.
So that was my one.
Why do you tell everyone about it? Like, can't you just be happy?
That was my one thing of like, is this so triggering to her, and is this like a bigger deal because of something in the past? Because I think like men who are dating women that much younger, I do think it's an unequal relationship dynamic, and I don't think that it's healthy. And I mean, she's admitted herself to having daddy issues and just, you know, different issues that I'm just like, yeah, like just like that in general. Like even her calling Brett, it was almost like sometimes when she talks to Brett, it's almost like she's talking to her dad. Yes.
She's just like, Daddy, he was mean to me. And he's there like, don't worry, stop crying. I'm here for you. And it's just like weird.
It is interesting. But I also agree with you about saying like that it could be blown out of proportion, right? Like I'm not questioning. I think their reaction to it could be taken as victim blaming, because I don't know, the reaction was so big for, I guess it would be frustrating though if you feel like somebody is lying and you feel like they're trying to hurt you.
But then again, she also has one set of rules for her and one set of rules for everybody else. For instance, that same night that she gets poked in the ribs by Chase in an intimidating show of dominance, she then puts Jen in a chair and then gets a stripper to give her a lap dance in front of her husband. And then when on that infamous Entertainment Tonight interview that they all did as a group, Jen's there like, I didn't consent to that. And Demi's like, it's not the same. It's like, well, it is actually. You kind of... sexually assaulted Jen via the medium of another guy to
Yes.
test her and her husband's relationship, and she didn't give her full consent to that. They said, we want to do a little Chippendales thing. Jen said, oh my God, cool, that's cute. The notorious people pleaser going along with stuff.
Yeah.
She didn't say, yeah, we're going to get a professional male stripper to dance all over you in front of everyone and all the cameras, and then we're going to film it, and then millions of people are going to watch it, and you're going to be humiliated. She didn't agree to that. And
Yeah,
Jen was
and
pissed off about
they
it.
said they were going to dress up as Chippendale dancers, right? They never said that they were going to do a dance for her. They said they were going to dress up, which is completely different.
Flew in a guy from Vegas to dance on her. Like, they love practical joke. They got so much money. But it was
that
awful.
seems to be the go-to in this group of saying, well, it's not the same thing, when it is, in fact, the same thing. Yeah, it's like a different scenario, but it's the same overall.
And that
case,
was planned and calculated. They planned it for weeks in advance. They had a rehearsal. Like, it's awful. And then, of course, Jen said, it doesn't really matter whether Demi thinks it's intentional or not. If Jen is there saying, this made me uncomfortable, I'm not happy that you did this, I felt violated, you did not get my consent for this, it doesn't really matter whether Demi meant to or not. At that point, you say, I'm really sorry that I hurt you. You don't say, no, it's not, you're wrong. I'm sorry you feel that. That's an awful thing to say. And then when Demi says, there are these allegations, I'm not going to go into it. By the way, I'm going to drag all the other people who've been victims of assault into my narrative to give it legitimacy. And other people go, I don't know, man, the math's not mathing. I don't really understand the intentions of everyone involved. People are behaving strangely. You're behaving strangely. And so is your husband. I really don't know what to make of this. She's just like, I can't believe people don't believe me. And they're saying, we're not saying we don't believe you. We're saying that there's a little bit more to this that you're not telling us. And it's being turned into a giant plot point on the TV show that makes you money. Like, I don't know. It's this whole thing's weird.
I can't help that, like, these women are being so, like, vicious to each other. It's, like, nice. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, it feels so, like, passive-aggressive viciousness that I'm so used to in growing up Mormon, right? Like, the smile on my face and, like, oh, we're gonna plot behind your back to, like, get these guys to dance on you. And it's so funny. And, like, everyone was laughing. What are you talking about? Like, everyone was laughing. And then Jessie secretly, like, in her own life being abused. You know, like, her encouraging Jen to, like, divorce her husband, leave her husband, like, get away from your husband, with no compassion or empathy to, like, well, she has kids with this man. Like, can she just leave this man? Like, is that the best advice to give someone? Like, I think that's the hard part for me, is, like, you think that they're gonna learn a lesson. And so far, I feel like Taylor and Whitney have learned their lesson. I feel like Layla's always just been nice and whatever, but it's like they never really learn the lesson. They just, like, keep doing it, keep being these, like, vicious, passive aggressive, and sometimes full on aggressive, like, towards each other, instead of, like, having real conflict resolution.
Yeah, because if they resolved the conflict, there'd be no show. So
That's
it's not
true.
in their interest to, like, them yelling at it. I mean, we've all seen Real Housewives. We love it when they scream at each other. But it's also, with these conflicts, it feels a lot more depressing watching them fall out like this. It feels like a lot more is at stake emotionally. You know, these Real Housewives have got the money and they've got the connections that they are yelling at each other on TV to make money. And then they kind of go to their normal lives. But this is their life.
This feels more desperate, huh?
Yeah.
Like,
but they also don't really have the resources to know any better, and that's no one's fault. They're also incredibly young. Jessie's the oldest. She's 32. I'm 32.
Yeah,
I'm
31.
The fact that, like, they're the kind of, like, mature older ones of the group, and it's like, that's crazy. I still feel like I'm a kid and I don't know it.
And none of them can have, like, the fact that that was the first time that they, like, genuinely sat down to, like, hear each other out at the end, you know, is a little bit wild to me. Like, even when Whitney showed up to the house, it's like, why can't you guys, like, all have a conversation about this? And, like, just because I think it would be hard to be lumped in a group when it is your business as well. So I, like, understand them being like, oh, like, this makes us look bad, yada, yada. And it's like, but what is the foresight of, like, you guys did not give zero fucks how bad you made Whitney look and how awful and rude you were to her the first season. So, like, why does she owe you any loyalty just because you, like, half voted her back into MomTok, you know?
Yeah. And their definition of MomTok is very context dependent. Like, is it a business? Is it a sisterhood? Is it a brand? Like, they're all there. They've all got contracts. I think as well, the producers have gotten a lot better at hiding their interferences in the show. Because there was
Yeah.
that whole thing with Whitney not showing up to the baby mama event, but then showing up to Michaela's birthday. And I'm just like, well, she was clearly contractually obliged to show up to that. Like, this
Yeah.
wasn't a calculated thing. This is a work thing. And I think in season 2, there was a lot of producer interference that I have quite a few friends who work in TV, so I would just go to them being like, did the producer do this? And they went, obviously, yes. The pregnancy roulette, the truth box, all of that shit, like, that's obviously manufactured. And they got a little better at it in season 3, but the highlight of the entire season for me was they went to that event with all the planes in the aircraft hangar, and Demi's like, giving it all that, and then she's like, I'm gonna go to my car and I'm gonna go on live right now, and Layla's there like, what are you doing? And then a fucking producer has to go on her car, knock on her window being like, you're about to violate your NDA. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? If the producer has to stop you from posting when posting is your job, like, you fucked up. It was just so funny. And again, it sort of shows that Demi doesn't really have, like, she kind of forgets where all the boundaries are and what all the rules are when it's her doing the stuff. And in those situations, the producer has to step in because there are legal implications to what she's doing. But if there aren't legal implications, she can pretty much do whatever the fuck she wants with her weird husband backing her up on everything she does.
Yeah, I know. And so much of it, like, I feel like part of it, that feels a little bit contrived too, is like Michaela's storyline, which I felt like was very heavy, but like the elephant in the room that was never talked about was getting pregnant at 16 by her 21-year-old husband.
Oh my God, I need to talk about this. First of all, like, I think it's kind of complicated because she now has 4 kids with this guy, and all the people on the internet being like, you should break up with your husband. I really don't see what the virtue is to breaking up a family when she's going through a load of shit already. On the other hand, like, Michaela knows no better. So she was abused as a child and then again as a teenager. She wasn't believed as a teenager by her own family, moves out to live with her sisters, immediately meets a guy 5 years older than her, and then hooks up with him and is immediately impregnated, and there's a shotgun wedding. And that's so all that she's known is older men in the first and second instances taking advantage of her, and in the third instance it being a kind of weird gray area that's kind of icky, but because of the Romeo and Juliet laws in Utah, it not technically being illegal as far as I could figure out. But all that she's known is older men having power over her. And like I said, it doesn't matter how distant she is from the church. That's just the way it is. She's been with a guy for 8 years and she's only 25. She doesn't really know any better. And she's had all these... I really got the impression that the I want more intimacy storyline felt really manufactured, because your wife is 7 months pregnant. She isn't going to be wanting to shag you every day, all day. Like, come on. It felt so like they needed to give her a storyline. And I'm sure that her trips to the therapist were real, and her struggles with intimacy are very real because of her past. Turning it into Jace wants more sex from me, so we're going to couples therapy. I was just like, I don't really think that I mean, you've seen what he's been like in previous seasons. He doesn't want to get involved at all with anything, and suddenly he is. It's like, well, yeah, because they're paying him now. It just all seems weird to me.
Yeah, and I think, like, part of it too, like, they did do a good job of talking about emotional intimacy and saying, like, that was lacking. And it's so interesting because I think that emotional intimacy across the whole group is lacking. And I think that is a very Mormon thing. Like, Michaela's abuse in general and not being believed, again, is a very Mormon thing that happens to a lot of Mormon women and men a lot of the time. And the fact that she's not able to, like, open up and talk about these things, which I think is valid to not do on national television. Absolutely not do on.
The fact that she did was because on the one hand, the producers need to, they need something to work with. But at the same time, like, she's an adult who can make her own decisions, and she's clearly thinking, oh, I need a storyline and this is what I can do. Like, being pregnant's clearly not interesting enough. And so I found it I think it takes 2 to tango in these situations, but it does feel so exploitative as well.
That's what I was going to say. It feels like they've been exploited by the Mormon Church as an institution, and now this show is also another thing that's exploiting them, and out of the desperation, like even like the hatred and upset of like, Whitney wanting this in her contract and stuff, it's like it reeks of just pure desperation and jealousy of also wanting to get out of this like box of a life that
Yeah.
you've been
It's like a golden
prescribed.
cage. Yeah, they're like stuck in
Yeah.
this golden cage because I mean, Mormons are very affluent from what I can figure out. Like if you're paying 10% of your pre-tax income to a church, then you got a
You have
little
to have
bit lying
money.
around.
Yeah.
Probably not that way for everyone, and I know that it's completely insane that they go on missions to places where people don't have enough money to feed their families, and they're like, yeah, but tithing is really important, actually. On the other hand, they live in these like giant houses, they live very healthy lifestyles, they're highly educated. There are these sort of really tight networks that provide a lot of advantages to being in the community. So it's a real strange one there, but I don't know, the whole storyline with Jace wanting more intimacy just feels kind of made up, to be honest. And
Yeah.
even if he was, he really doesn't seem like the kind of person who'd want to make a storyline like that unless it really feels like there's a gun being held to his head there. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that he's necessarily like a great person, but it's what's done is done. You can't unscramble that egg. She's got 4 kids with you. You live together. You're a family. Were you going to break that up because there was some like kind of weird gray area shit a few years ago?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that is for them to work out and talk about, like, yeah, it is on them to get to a place, and I'll admit it, like I struggle with this too, because I'm like, yeah, it is kind of a a gray area of like, yeah, I don't want her to divorce the guy, and he doesn't
For the
seem.
sake of it.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like a horrible person, but also I think it's like that is so normalized within Mormonism. Like when I turned 16, I went on a date with a return missionary who was 21,
Yeah.
and it was totally normal.
Because
Yeah,
they come back from their missions and they're like, okay, you have to get married now. And it's like, okay, who's not married? It's all the women who are like under
in high
21.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had multiple friends who were engaged by the time that, I guess I wouldn't say friends, acquaintances, who were engaged by the time before we were even graduated. So
I mean,
I do
yeah.
think it's part of the culture that normalizes that type of thing. And
Well, it's not
especially,
just Mormonism, honey. That happened where I grew up as well. Like,
yeah,
there are like girls in high school being picked up by their boyfriends who are already driving cars, and it's just like, you fucking creepy. Like, it was a
yeah.
whole. Growing up in the UK in the 2000s was really weird.
Yeah, it is. I think just so much of it is weird. The last thing I
Okay.
just really wanted to talk about was the LGBTQ plus support that
Yes.
they gave. What were your
Okay.
thoughts on that?
It felt kinda virtue signally, but also so does every expression of LGBT support from every corporation. And let's be honest, in this
Yeah,
situation, MomTok is the corporation,
yeah,
and they're turning everything rainbow for Pride Month. And on the other hand, like I know that Layla and Miranda and Chase are all very publicly anti-Republican, pro-LGBT. They're going to Pride rallies of their own accord.
yeah,
And they are quite publicly against the current administration's attitude towards LGBT people. So you have that to start with. On the other hand, I really don't see why it's a bad thing that they're on TV. People are saying, "Oh yeah, they're parading Jacob's gay cousin around," and I'm just like, "Yeah, but I think it's also good press." I mean. The Mormon Church, in my opinion, is very flexible in its ideology. Like, it got rid of polygamy because if it didn't, they wouldn't be allowed to have a state. They allowed black members to join in the 70s because membership was dipping a little bit. And they're like, oh, we kind of need to get the numbers up. Oh, there seem to be a lot of black people everywhere. Why don't we just let them in?
yeah,
It isn't because they suddenly were just like, oh, actually, I think everyone should be treated equally. It was a completely business-like decision.
yeah,
And a friend of mine and I we disagree on this. We're going to check in 10 years' time. I genuinely think within the next decade, the LDS Church is going to change its stance on LGBT members because that's the way that the world is trending. And it's becoming more normal. Eventually, they're going to have to yield. They can't be homophobic forever because they've got quite a lot of members who are queer, quite a lot of ex-members who are very publicly queer, and queer people exist and you can't just legislate them out of existence.
yeah. And I actually agree with you because especially with the new garment, changes, the Mormon underwear of going sleeveless, like that's mind blowing
Yeah,
to me
that's big.
that
That's
that was
really
changed.
big, guys. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so I kind of agree that like with I think most members, even if they're active members, do not agree with the Mormon Church's stance on LGBTQ issues anymore. Like they just nobody really cares. And you're right, if that's something if your church is dying, right? Especially in Western culture and society, right? Like Mormonism is on the rise outside of the United States and UK. Like and outside of Canada. Like, it would be a smart thing to do to all of a sudden allow that. And I mean, I guess we'll see. Because I think that they've already started allowing members who are married, to the same sex still partake of the sacrament. And yeah,
oh, I didn't know that because I mean, in a
it's like
way,
hit and miss. It's hit and miss for whatever
yeah.
ward you're in. It's like bishop roulette, right? Like they
'Cause
might
I do
not
find that
care.
very strange. It's very, like, decentralized in that way because some people are just like, "Oh, my bishop said XYZ," and another person was like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to do this at all."
Yeah.
And so it's just very tactical, and it's about keeping membership up. When you think about it, the LDS Church is just the giant version of like MomTok is a tiny version. It's a little microcosm, and it's adaptive to what makes them popular and what makes them money because the LDS Church is first and foremost a big money-making machine. That's why it
Yeah.
exists. It's to enrich people, and I know what you're saying about the Mormon Church becoming more popular in other countries, but also what qualifies you as being a member of the church is pretty loose. Like
Yeah.
if you've had it, if Tara, you knocked on someone's door and baptized them and their name's added to the list and then they just never went to church ever again, they're still on that list and they're still being counted. Being taken
Yeah.
off that list is a real process and they try everything they can to get you taken off there. The numbers are insanely inflated and all they care about is getting tithe money because it's a members only club and you're not allowed in the special building without your special card and your special underwear. And so it's just like
Yeah.
none of it really matters actually. And the thing that's so frustrating is, I mean, I'm looking at this from as like a Western feminist who doesn't believe in any God, who lives in a very liberal country. And it's kind of a shame because I'm looking at these people and they actually are very good at community building. They care a lot for each other. There is a huge social safety net just within the communities that they're in already. And they have such a chance to come together and care for each other. And it's just sort of constrained by all of this rule following and bigotry and misogyny. And it's like, they're so close to kind of getting it, but they're just sort of being held back by tradition, by patriarchy. And yeah, the whole thing's mad. I mean, all religion is like that, but Mormonism especially because of the in and outness of it all.
Yeah. No, I completely agree that like that's exactly what we're seeing on this level is a microcosm of the church and people's process through getting out. And I hope for next season, I don't know. I don't have any predictions.
Give me your predictions. I want to hear them.
Obviously, I think they all fall out again.
There'd be no show otherwise.
Yeah, I don't think that they're all friends. I definitely think that they are going to start franchising a Mom Talk, especially with Jen staying in LA after Dancing with the Stars. I feel like that's how they're going to introduce a new Mom Talk is like, oh, we were out here for Dancing with the Stars and we like met these other friends who share our same faith and blah, blah, blah. And like, that's how it's going to be the progression of like, Mom Talk Beverly Hills, Mom Talk Texas,
The whole like I'm going to make a new Mom Talk, and it's like stop acting like it's an actual tangible, like it's just an idea you had. It's not it's just like they talk about it like it's sentient. It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
It's just like I could start a Mom Talk here in Amsterdam tomorrow. Like I don't have any kids.
Yeah.
Do either, but like it's just like Mormonism. You say it and it's true. You just like think it into existence. That's how Mormonism created. It's like honestly, my ex would always kind of jokingly have a go at me about caring so much about this TV show and over intellectualizing it, but I was like, yeah, but this goes so much deeper than you can possibly imagine. I'm like the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the like board behind him with red. So I'm just like
the string.
Yeah. And so it's so, I mean, I don't think that's actually the intention of the show, but people like me and you are just going to be able to read between these lines and be like, I could spend my whole life studying these freaks. I love it.
I know. And I think that I don't know this with Whitney. I haven't talked to her about this, But I guarantee after Dancing with the Stars, which everybody vote for Whitney so she can make it
Vote for
into
Whitney,
the
please.
finals. And I guarantee that she will have Broadway deals, movie deals. Like, I think that we are seeing the last of possibly Whitney and Taylor
Yeah,
in
because
this series.
they're too big. They're big fish, small pond. Like
Yeah.
Taylor is, for all of her faults, she was born to be on reality TV. I think her going on The Bachelorette as a personal choice, disastrous. It's only going to end in tears. As a professional choice, genius. Like the whole Kris Jenner, as her mother, I was furious, but as her manager. And with Whitney having real tangible talent in dancing, like she can make a career out of it. She can and she will make a career out of this. And you're kind of looking at the others and it's like, so what is it that you guys do exactly? And,
Yeah.
Jessie's got hair. Jen also has her dancing, but to a lesser extent. The rest of them, I don't really know what they do. They'll figure it out. But I guess
wonder if some go to like Housewives, right? I bet some will join Housewife cast, but like I don't know. I don't really know. And I think that's like, at least in this season, that's what we're 100% seeing, is the start of that divide of people like Whitney and Taylor going into actual Hollywood A-list, fame.
entertainment
And
industry shit.
yeah, versus those that are they're gonna have great careers, right? Like they're going to be influencers and probably make money forever, but I think it's going to be harder for them to stay relevant. And I wonder if there's not going to be at least a recast and a shakeup to the cast come season 5.
For sure. I just worry that like I said in the beginning, they're moving away from the Mormonism of it all. And that's why a lot of us are tuning in, because that's really interesting and unique. Like, I know
Yeah.
there's a bit of that on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, but not really. Like there are more interesting things for them to talk about. I kind of would rather they would focus on the religious cultural aspect of it, because that's what makes them stand out. Otherwise, it's just going to turn into another show where there's a bunch of like thin blonde women with too much filler arguing about stuff. Like you can find that anywhere. Like it's not unique. And so I think the producers have much to chew on in that sense.
Yeah. And I think that they need to, like, I thought this cast was like okay, but I think they need to get into people who are more vocal ex Mormons and people who are more vocal Mormons, right? Because I think this cast that they originally cast, it's kind of like what you were saying with like, people might not really know that they're Mormon. They might assume, but they don't, it's not something that they like openly talk about a lot, right? At least in this cast. Same thing with the ex Mormons in the cast. Like, it's not something they openly talk about a lot. And I think they
used to talk about it more, and that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, we don't need to talk about this anymore because we've got our foot in the door. And it's like, that's all shit unless you have something interesting to bring. Yeah,
and it's always going to be interesting because there's always weird things within Mormonism that's like, what the heck? Like, this is a whole new level of like weird.
Yeah, absolutely. Play on the weird. We've seen regular people and we're bored of it. So move on. I mean, producers, if you're listening, please call me. I have so many ideas. You need like a fresh thoughts. You need non-American on there. And also obviously cast Tara as an ex-Mormon with many opinions.
Oh my gosh. I'm all the way here in Kyrgyzstan too. And after
MomTok bitch. I would love that.
There actually is a lot of Mormons here and ex-Mormons because of people being in the foreign service. Like it's a very, like, I would say the Mormons are overrepresented in this embassy and area. It's like really actually wide.
Well, right, because they're incapable of lying. They're
feel
a lot of guilt. So
I think it's just because like they don't drink and like they don't listen to authority, and typically it's like they don't have to worry about cheating. Like, and I think they speak a language, right? Like my husband served his mission in Russia, and so being in Bishkek, he speaks Russian and makes you a great addition to the foreign service. So yeah, it's like crazy.
Yeah, and like that's so like, could we talk about this more on the show? I want to hear more about people's missions. I want to hear about time at BYU and all of your like the time in the church and all of the weird rituals that you have to do and the weird clothes you have to wear and what if people have left the church, like what was that like? And that's so interesting, and I'm sure that peppered in with all of the regular reality stuff and all of the glamour of it all, it's like such a multi-dimensional show, and they're kind of losing grip on that. So I'm really
I wonder
interested
if
to
that's
see.
hard too because of how big the cast is. Like, I wonder with the other franchises if they'll do a little bit like smaller cast. I don't know. Like, because I feel like Housewives does such a great job of like helping us know the women while also having a cast of typically the same size, right? About
Yeah,
8
it's usually about like
women.
five of them in Salt Lake. I haven't watched Salt Lake City for a
Oh,
while,
I
but
forget because they do main cast and then friends of, right?
that's a good way of doing it. Different
Yeah.
tiers. But yeah, having 9 is a lot.
Yeah.
And
We
yeah.
kind of need friends of because those are like the people with like lesser stories, whereas like the main cast, it's like, oh, we really dive into like their stories and their things.
Yeah, so get rid of husbands and bring in friends of. I think that's the
Yes.
way.
Well, that's the way to go. And yeah, more women. Like, why are we even allowing the men to talk?
I will give Connor a pass because he's fun and also kind of one of the girls. He loves the gossip. He loves the drama. Love
Yes.
that. But all the others can please, for the love of God, Zach, Jordan, Brett, Jace, get a job. Go
Yeah.
outside, touch grass, get out of your wife's business and pay the bills yourself, fucking
Yeah.
freeloaders.
And if you're not going to pay the bills, stop being such a fucking asshole about
After the
everything.
kids, change a
Yeah.
diaper every now and
Change.
then. Like, oh, you made those kids. Look after
Yeah.
them.
And look
God.
after your wives. Like, maybe try that.
Bought your house, dude.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Oh my God.
coming on. I love your perspective as someone who's never been Mormon and especially being outside of the United States. I feel like it just brings like such a fresh
Thank
perspective.
you.
Where can people find you and support you at Celeste?
I mean, I'm just a member of the public here, so I don't really have much of a platform. But if you're interested in seeing my day-to-day life, you can find me at VeloCeleste, VeloCeleste on Instagram. And I also have a Substack, which is celestem.substack.com. I do movie reviews, I do music lists as I work in the music industry here in Amsterdam. And sometimes there's a little bit of oversharing about mental health. We love a bit of that. Or I'm obviously about to write my magnum opus about all 3 seasons of this show now that I've finished them. So big things coming on the Substack.
Okay. Well, I can't wait. I'm going to share it once
Oh my
you
God, thank you
do
so
write it.
much.
I can't
Yes.
wait to hear all about it. And thank you so much again for coming on. All of you, you can, of course, write a review. That helps so much with the podcast. You can follow on Instagram or TikTok and join the Discord channel, Pouty Girls, if you are wanting discussions with other people who are like-minded, leaving religion and kind of finding their way as well. But thank you so much for listening and stay pouty, my friends. Okay, I'm going to stop.
Hello? Yeah, I'll tell him. Hey sinners, it's your fucking prophet speaking. God says that we actually came from her vagina, not Adam's rib. God wants us to address her as that bitch now in all prayers and legal documents. Did you know that John has a twink on the side? Olivia doesn't even know. Oh my God, I heard that they're swingers. She practically propositioned me in the church parking lot. Having gained an angel, more like hell gained a bitch.